The American people bailed out Wall Street. Now it is time for Wall Street to come to the aid of the middle class of this country.
So most of you already know that Bernie Sanders has introduced free college for all. But now, as a part of his College for All Act, he's also canceling, or at least plans to cancel, $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. So before I get to any more of these details, let me play a clip here of Bernie discussing this in his announcement.
In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, it is simply not acceptable that our younger generation, through no fault of their own, will have a lower standard of living than their parents, more debt, lower wages, and less likelihood of owning their own homes. That is why this proposal completely eliminates student debt in this country and ends the absurdity of sentencing an entire generation, the millennial generation, to a lifetime of debt for the crime of doing the right thing, and that is going out and getting a higher education. 10 years ago, the United States government bailed out Wall Street after their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior drove us into the worst recession in modern history. Today, the major Wall Street banks are larger than ever. Their profits are soaring, and their CEOs receive huge compensation packages. Our proposal, which costs $2.2 trillion over 10 years, will be fully paid for by a tax on Wall Street speculation, similar to what exists in dozens of countries around the world. The American people bailed out Wall Street. Now it is time for Wall Street to come to the aid of the middle class of this country. This Wall Street tax will have the added benefit of controlling Wall Street recklessness and reducing the likelihood of another major economic crash.
All right, so Bernie broke it down pretty well there, but I'll get into some more details. So this plan is going to be sponsored in the House by Pramila Jayapal and Ilhan Omar in actually two separate bills in the House. And this may sound a little familiar because Elizabeth Warren just proposed her own version of canceling student debt, though Bernie's goes farther. So here's the difference. Warren's student debt relief is means tested, as Vox's Ellen Nilsson explained. Warren's plan cancels $50,000 in student loan debt for every person with household income under $100,000 and offers substantial debt cancellation to every person with household income between $100,000 and $250,000. Those making above $250,000 wouldn't qualify. In total, Warren's plan is estimated to cost $1.25 trillion over a decade, almost $1 trillion less than Sanders. So Warren's plan, while solid, doesn't go as far as Bernie's plan does. And on top of that, Bernie's plan is paid for in his proposal. So more details on that. The proposal will cost $2.2 trillion over 10 years, which Sanders said would be paid for with his Wall Street tax. He proposed a Wall Street speculation tax in 2016, which would raise small levies on buying and selling stocks, bonds, and derivatives. Many experts estimate it could raise hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Sanders' office cited progressive economist Robert Pollin's projection that the tax would bring in $2.4 trillion in revenues over 10 years. So Sanders' plan cancels all student debt, is fully paid for, and clearly would have a huge economic benefit. So I'm going to show some clips here where actually AOC, who also I believe is a co-sponsor on the bills in the House, as well as Ilhan Omar, get into the benefits of this. But essentially, I mean, it frees people up. So if you have all the student loan debt, it can prevent you in many ways from living your life, whether it's starting a family, buying a home, buying a car, I mean, buying power in general, or saving for retirement. So there are so many different aspects of life that student loan debt prevents you from pursuing because of it. Like even like starting a business. So say you want to start a business. A lot of people that start businesses happen to come from money or happen to know people, have great connections that have money that can lend to them. In this situation, or in in a situation like this where your student loans are canceled, that gives you more freedom to be able to potentially start a business that you weren't able to before because you were worried about having to pay off your student loans. I mean, there are just endless benefits to this. Now, let me get to a few clips here from AOC, Ilhan Omar, and Pramila Jayapal.
Because families and people in my generation, older and younger, are not buying cars, we're not purchasing homes, we are not building families because of the scepter that student loan debt represents on our generation. It is unjust, and it is a burden that no generation before had to encounter to the scale and the level that ours has.
I stand before you on behalf of 45 million Americans. 45 million people who feel they can't purchase their first home, 45 million people who feel like they can't start a family, 45 million people who have dreams of opening up a business or going to public service but are held back by a mountain of debt. 45 million who are wondering if they can retire because of the loans they took out for themselves or on behalf of their children.
People in their 30s have the most percentage of the student debt held. And of course, our millennials are looking at a future that does not have hope. 60% of white students across our country have student debt burdens, students of color even more. 87% of black students have to borrow to attend a four-year college. And African American women who graduate with a college degree are paying about 111% of their first year salary in student loans. As the senator said, we continue to invest in HBCUs and minority institutions, in tribal colleges. We make sure we take care of everybody, and in the end, we make sure that we stop profiteering off of student loans.
All right, so Jayapal there mentions HBCUs, so I want to just share a little more detail on that and some other aspects of this proposal. Sanders is proposing funding streams to states, tribes, and historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, to allow them to eliminate undergraduate tuition and fees. The bill would also increase spending on work-study programs and build up federal grant programs for low-income students for additional costs related to getting an education, from housing and transportation to buying books. So, I mean, this bottom line, this is incredibly beneficial for millions and millions and millions of Americans. This would free so many people up from allowing them to, or free people up to allow them to live the life that they want to live, whether it's pursuing a different career, starting a business, buying a house, buying a car. I mean, student debt holds so many people back. Now, look, you can go online or on Twitter, look it up. There are so many people that are sharing their stories. But I want to share this tweet from Senior Policy Advisor for Bernie Sanders, Heather Godney, because this is somebody that has made it in life. I mean, she has a job with Bernie Sanders. She has a PhD, and she's still paying off a ton of student debt. So here's what she tweeted out. I am $180,000 in debt. I have a PhD, and I'm a tenured professor. My students are in the same boat, sinking in debt. I pay $1,100 a month in student loan debt, half of my rent. We must cancel student debt. Wall Street got bailed out. What about us? Now, this is a story that, like, it really shows you how many people are impacted by student debt. Whether you are in a career you like, whether you're working a job that you don't want to work, but you couldn't find a job in your field after you graduated. I mean, the whole spectrum, the whole range of people, student loan debt affects everyone. And it also affects people that haven't gone to college. So there are a lot of people that have decided to not even pursue a higher education because they realize they would be under all of this debt. So there are people out there that haven't reached their potential or haven't gone into the careers that they want to go into because they're worried about the debt. So, I mean, free college and canceling all the student debt would benefit people in so many different ways. Now, I want to share some more tweets here. So this tweet from Bernie Sanders. I'm going to make a prediction. The major opponents of our legislation to cancel $1.6 trillion in student debt, mark my words, will be the exact same people who said we had to bail out Wall Street to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars. And of course, Bernie is exactly right. Shortly after that tweet went out, Third Way, which is a Wall Street funded group, tweeted this out. Free college for all is regressive. Blanket debt forgiveness could actually increase inequality. Of course, they're tweeting this out. Again, they're funded by Wall Street. So when you're going to put a tax on Wall Street to fund canceling the student debt, yeah, they're not going to love it. And they're going to try and construe some narrative to be against this obviously beneficial plan. And let's just take one more look at this tweet. Look at the ratio. I mean, this is one of the biggest ratios on any tweet I've ever seen. All these replies and barely any likes or retweets by comparison. Now, actually, one more tweet I want to share here. This is a response to the Third Way tweet from Optimism Survivor. It's a caption of Bernie and Pramila Jayapal and Ilhan Omar laughing with the quote, "I just read a Third Way tweet." So lots of fun happening on that Third Way tweet. But let me share a tweet here from an institution that is in favor of Bernie's plan. So Harvard Business School tweeted this out. Without the burden of student loan debt, people seek higher paying careers, stabilize their finances, and contribute to the economy. So there you go. That's Harvard Business School in favor of canceling all student debt because they realize how much of a boon it would be to the economy, freeing people up to actually put money back into the economy by buying houses, cars, food, whatever. One more tweet here. This is from AOC. So she tweeted out, "Student loans are a scam. That's why I join Bernie Sanders, Jayapal, and Ilhan to forgive all student loans and make colleges tuition free. P.S. For the cost of the GOP tax scam, $2 trillion, we could have already forgiven every student loan in America with billions left over." So framing it that way, showing you how much this GOP tax scam cost, the tax cuts for corporations and the rich, knowing that money instead could have gone to student loans and helped actual people. I mean, it shows you how bought this Congress is, especially the Republican Party. So look, Democrats have their issues too, but there definitely is a difference. And the amount of tax cuts for the rich. I mean, the GOP essentially exists for massive corporations and the rich. That's the whole point of that party. And they try and distract their voters with cultural issues because selling people on giving a tax cut to the rich is a hard sell. So they got to focus on the cultural issues. But knowing that $2 trillion could have gone to student debt instead, I mean, it's got to be maddening for people that are fully aware of how they're being screwed. So yeah, this plan is great. Look, I was a big supporter of Warren's plan as well, but we have to be honest, when a better plan comes out, it's a better plan. So even though Warren's plan is solid, Bernie takes it a step further here. And look, I'm just glad that there are multiple competing progressive proposals for an issue like this, because I mean, addressing student debt is definitely one of the, I think, the most vital issues that 2020 candidates need to address.